Good morning, 8th grade. It is Monday the 9th. I've been gone for a couple days, so you can't really see my desk, but there are papers everywhere. We will be fairly brief today, hopefully. I was gone Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, so I'm a little bit behind. Your test, whenever you take them remotely, they don't line up because you don't take them at the same time as your other classmates. And so yesterday on Sunday when I graded them, I would grade, say, second hour, and then I would import them and then realize later that some of you in second hour or third hour, whatever hour, who took it remotely were down further on the list. And so the grade that popped through initially probably was not reflective of your actual grade because like the vocab and stuff, I put in an answer key and Google grades that for me. Some of the short answer I put in an answer key and it grades that for me, but you got to type it exactly like I did. So if you type capital C Comstock load and I put lowercase c, counts it wrong. So I have to go through and change those and then grade the ones that I didn't, that have like 10 or 12 different answers but that are possible. I don't put those all in the answer key. So if your grade at first was not what you expected, I think they're all fixed now. So double check those and make sure that your grade looks right. I'm talking about railroads today. As you can see, I don't have your study guide grades in yet for the Chapter 4 test either. But I will get those in presumably today. I can't promise today, but I'll try my best. But tomorrow's the deadline because tomorrow's midterm. So I'll have them done at some point today or tomorrow. Okay. We're going to try to keep this around 10 minutes today. That's the goal. Like I said, I'm behind. I got a lot to do. I don't have a super lot to say about this section anyway. And so we'll try to burn through these. Okay. Don't forget to do your attendance question. So I can count you here. You need to answer the question or whatever I tell you to put in there on this video. You need to go to Google Forms. It'll be attached, and then it'll say, what's your answer to the video question? You just type in the answer, and then that's it for being counted for school, being on school on Monday. Usually get counted absent the day after because I don't really get in to put them in the day after because I can't tell because they're not due till the end of the day. So in 1860, before the Civil War, there were 30,000 miles of railroad tracks. Railroad, incidentally, I already did it. Railroad, as you can already tell, is maybe my least favorite word to say in the English language. Maybe not the least favorite to say, but the one I'm worst at saying. Maybe that's what I'm trying to get at. But as you can see, that's over 6 times as much in 40 years. I'm sorry to drop that math on you. For me, it's only 8:15, 8:20 in the morning. That's a little early for my math brain to be working. But it's, 7 would be 210,000. 6 times would be 880,000. So it's between 6 and 7 times as much mileage of railroads. Consolidation of the railroad industry was driven by consolidation. Consolidations combining of different industries into one. Okay, and so they would, in a bunch of different ways, they would either buy out or take over lesser competitors, and they would fold them into one company and create these super giant companies. You're seeing this now a lot in our economy. The most famous example, of course, is Amazon. They, of course, sell everything, but now they're taking in other companies and just folding them in. Amazon, Whole Foods, which is a grocery store, usually you find in bigger cities. That's the most famous example that I can think of anyway. Okay, so large companies, we talked about some of those, the Union Pacific, the Central Pacific, they would buy out smaller businesses or they would price them out. If you are Walmart, you can afford to sell whatever, a box of Lucky Charms for cheaper at Walmart than you could if you were Boland's, because Walmart has such a massive volume of customers that they can sell them for cheaper and still maintain their profit margin. And so the idea is they sell them cheaper, and then a lot of people are not willing to pay more for the Lucky Charms just to go to Boland's and support their local businesses. And I don't, It would be great if everybody could, but that's not a situation that everyone's in. Not everyone can, be in a situation where they can afford to go and pay prices that local businesses have to charge. And that is what businesses like Amazon and Walmart are counting on. And then they drive those out of business, and they can now set their prices at whatever they want. And so, I do try to encourage people to buy from local businesses as much as possible, but I do also understand that not everybody's situation puts them in a position to do that. And so, but that's the idea. That's why Walmart comes in. Dollar General now is doing this a lot, and they're targeting low-income areas a lot, and they're trying to basically come in and sell their, at lower prices than you could get at whatever local store you have, and that's bad news for those local stores. Okay, and so these large companies also establish standard prices for the industry, which we're going to get into later is not okay. I always use shoes because everybody understands shoes, but if Nike and Reebok and Under Armour and Adidas, Skechers, or whatever shoe brands you can think of work together to set prices, that's illegal, because the idea is supposed to be that they're competing with each other to provide the best or the least expensive product. And if they're conspiring to keep their prices up, that's very illegal. But anyway, we'll get into more of that as this chapter goes along. A few, these people became known as railroad barons. They were basically a few, cabal of small number of men who were basically running the entire multi-billion, even back then, dollar railroad industry. Of course, now would be, multiple dozen billions in today's money, hundreds of billions probably. Cornelius Vanderbilt is the most famous. His railroad went from New York to Chicago. He consolidated several companies. James Hill ran the Great Northern Line from Minneapolis, Minnesota to the state of Washington, not D.C. Railroads stimulated the entire economy, and this is how, in a lot of ways, these people got away with a lot of their shady business practices, because they were boosting money into other industries. And so, whenever you're making money for a lot of people, it's, you could get away with a lot of stuff that people look the other way on. And so they carried raw materials such as iron or coal and timber to factories, and then they would carry whatever those factories were making with that raw material back to the stores, and they became basically getting money coming and going, which is, fine. And they became an important part of every step of the economic process. Getting the trees, think about a chair factory, just to use a simple example, that we're making wooden chairs. They would take the trees to the factory. They would take the chairs out of the factory to the stores. And, like they said, they're getting money at every turn. And again, that's not a problem. To ship something there and ship something back, that's a fair business deal. The problem becomes what we talked about on the last slide, which is they're fixing prices. They also did a thing called the standard gauge. This makes a lot more sense. Before that, like if you were going to ship something from, let's say, Seattle, Washington to New York City, that Hill guy, James J. Hill, you could basically get that on his train track and his train line, and then you would ship that to Minneapolis. And then you would put it on somebody else's train, and then they would ship it to Chicago. Then you put it on Vanderbilt's train, and he would ship it to Pennsylvania. And then you put it on somebody else's train, and they would ship it to New York. The problem being is you got to pay whatever I listed 4 or 5 different crews to load and unload, and you have to change trains, because some people have train tracks that are this wide, and some have train tracks that are this wide, and some have train tracks that are that wide. I only moved it 1/4 of an inch, but that's plenty when you're talking about a train. And I mean, obviously, I was just giving an example. Obviously, they're wider than that. You've seen train tracks before. But the point is, each individual railroad company had their own railroad tracks, and only their trains would fit on their tracks, which is your business. If it's your business, it's your business. You can run it however you want. The problem is, if you want to go from one train to another, you've got to unload the entire thing and put it on a different train. So they started using a standard gauge, which was, I think in the book, you'll read it tomorrow, 4 feet, 8.5 inches, something like that. But basically now you can just ship these on tracks straight from one place to another, and you could pay for switches to go on different people's railroad tracks. You could just pay that person rent to use their railroad tracks, the owner, instead of paying the workers. That does, you pay one crew instead of five. It's good business sense. Like I said, it does create a loss of jobs, but it happens. And so, you've seen probably on cartoons, probably more than anything, people heating up their trains with coal. You got to have people shoveling coal into the furnaces constantly. Wood industry grew because of railroads. Railroad ties between the tracks are made of wood, steel, of course. A lot of the train itself is made from steel, and of course the tracks are. But like I said, this created basically jobs in every industry across the country. New technology in railroads. You had air brakes, which could stop trains much faster, although it still takes a lot of time for trains to stop, even with air brakes. I mean, it's just a matter of, this is Mrs. Harris's, this is her deal, but it's inertia times mass. You've got all that heavy train, and you've got all that momentum or velocity or inertia built up, and stopping that, no matter what brake system you have, is going to take a lot longer. But using pressurized air can stop it a lot faster and prevents a lot of accidents because you don't have all that friction from stopping the wheels, with analog brakes that actually just squeeze them. Could cause a lot of, you've seen old time movies and stuff where they put on the train, sparks fly off the wheels. That really happened. Refrigerated cars are pretty self-explanatory. You could get meat from one part of the country to another that wouldn't kill you if you ate it, which is something that most people want. Non-poison meat. Sleeping cars, which are literally what exactly they sound like. You can now have a bed in your train, and overnight trips more comfortable. And so this is the problem. They set rates basically to keep prices low for themselves and their business associates. And they would basically give rebates to big business people, but then try to make that money up by charging more to farmers. They would set pools, which basically said, we are not going to charge below whatever dollar amount you want to make up. $5. We're not going to charge it below $5 for any train ticket. And they all these competing companies agreed to do that, which again, like I said, if Nike, Reebok, and Under Armour and every shoe company said, we're not going to charge under $300 for a pair of shoes, who really bears the brunt of that idea? And it's going to be you, and it's going to be me, the customer. And so this is why it's illegal. This is why it's a problem. And the idea is, if Nike starts charging $300 for a pair of shoes, I could say, heck with Nike, I'm going to go buy Under Armour shoes. But if they all work together, then you are pretty much up a creek without a paddle. And that's what our railroad customers were. That's the situation they were put in by these illegal price fixing pools. Like we talked about in the last chapter, railroads brought people to the West, redistributed the American population. You've seen a lot in the last 6 days about where the American population is and is not. Whether you look at those big red and blue electoral maps, California has more people than like 28 maybe 38. I can't remember off the top of my head, other states combined. And so obviously California is the most populated state. So this has really changed everything as far as where people are distributed across America. We talked about cowboys and ranchers and everything in the last chapter. So your video question for the day, I want you to just write the name of an animal. It doesn't matter. Monkey, tiger, aardvark, anteater, don't care. Just any animal that pops into your head, write that in the form today. Keep wearing your mask. Keep washing your hands. Keep staying safe. Have a good rest of the day. And I will see you, or you'll probably see me Thursday, because Wednesday there's no school. It's Veterans Day. So have a good day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.